Hi everyone, welcome back to Easy English.
Yes. If this is your first time listening, this is a podcast where we help you improve your English step by step,
Exactly, and we keep it simple, natural, and useful for real life.
especially for your job. Because today's topic is very important. Yes. Today we're talking about English at work.
How to speak, how to understand, and how to feel more confident at your job.
Because let's be honest, speaking English at work can feel scary sometimes.
Oh yes, very scary, especially when someone talks fast.
Or when your boss asks you a question and you don't understand.
And you just say yes, but you're not sure what you said yes to.
Exactly. That happens a lot.
So don't worry, you're not alone.
In this podcast, we're going to help you feel more comfortable.
We'll give you examples, simple phrases, and real situations.
Things you can actually use today at work.
Yes, not complicated English, just real English.
So relax, listen carefully.
And if you can, repeat after us.
That's the best way to learn.
Okay, are you ready?
Let's start.
Okay, so let's start with something very real. Imagine this. You arrive at work, it's your first day, and everything is in English. People are talking, laughing, giving instructions, and you feel a little lost. You understand some words, but not everything. This is very normal. It happens to many people. And the first feeling is usually stress. You start thinking, what if they ask me something? Or what if I don't understand? And sometimes you stay quiet because you don't want to make a mistake. But here's the truth. Making mistakes is part of learning. Nobody speaks perfect English on day one. So the first thing you need is confidence, not perfection.
Yes, I remember my first job. I was so nervous. My manager spoke very fast, and I didn't understand everything. One day, she gave me instructions, and I just smiled and said okay, but honestly, I didn't understand anything. Later, I made a mistake because I did the wrong task. I felt so bad, but then something important happened. My manager came to me and said, "Next time, just ask me again." She was not angry. She just wanted to help. And that changed everything for me. I realized that people don't expect you to be perfect. They just want communication. So after that, I started saying simple things like, "Can you repeat that?" Or "Can you speak a little slower?" And you know what? People were very kind. That's when I started improving my English at work.
That's a great example, Sophia. And honestly, that happens to a lot of people, especially when English is not your first language. At work, communication is everything. It's not about using big, complicated words. It's about being clear. For example, you can say simple things like, "I don't understand," or "Can you explain again?" These are powerful sentences, even if they are simple. Also, something very important is your tone. Even if your English is basic, if you speak in a calm and respectful way, people will understand you better and feel more comfortable helping you. Remember, your attitude matters more than your vocabulary. Confidence, eye contact, and a clear voice can make a big difference in how people see you at work.
Yes, and I want to add something very important. Many people are afraid of their accent. They think my English is not good because I have an accent. But listen, everyone has an accent. Even native speakers have different accents depending on where they are from. So your accent is not the problem. The real goal is to be understood, not to sound perfect. At work, clarity is more important than perfection. If people understand your message, you are doing a great job. So instead of trying to sound like a native speaker, focus on speaking clearly and slowly. Take your time. It's okay to pause to think and then speak. That is much better than speaking fast and making confusion.
Now let's talk about something very common at work: understanding instructions. This is one of the biggest challenges when you are learning English. Someone explains a task, maybe quickly, maybe with new words, and you feel confused. In that moment, many people just stay quiet. But that can create bigger problems later. So the best thing you can do is ask questions immediately. You can use simple phrases like, "Can you repeat that, please?" Or, What do you mean? Or even, can you show me? These questions are very powerful because they help you learn and avoid mistakes. Remember, asking questions is not a weakness. It actually shows that you care about doing your job correctly and that you are paying attention.
Yes, and I want to share something that helped me a lot. When someone gave me instructions, I started repeating the information in my own words. For example, I would say, okay, so I need to clean this area first, and then go to the second floor, right? This helps you confirm that you understood everything correctly, and if something is wrong, the other person can correct you immediately. This technique is very simple, but very effective. It also shows confidence and responsibility. Your manager or coworker will see that you are trying your best to understand and do things the right way. That's very important in any job.
Okay, let me tell you a real story from one of my first jobs. I was working in a cleaning team, and one day my supervisor came to me and started explaining a new task. She was speaking fast, using words I didn't know, and I felt nervous immediately. I understood maybe 50% of what she said, but I didn't want to ask again. So I just said, okay, and I started working. But after a few minutes, I realized I was not doing the right thing. I was cleaning the wrong area, and I was using the wrong products. I felt stressed, but I continued because I was too embarrassed to ask for help. That was a big mistake. About 20 minutes later, my supervisor came back and looked at what I was doing. She was confused and said, No, this is not what I asked. At that moment, I felt very bad. I thought she was going to be angry, but instead, she took a deep breath and started explaining everything again, more slowly. This time, I decided to do something different. I said, Sorry, can you explain again slowly? And she smiled and said, Of course. Then she showed me step by step what I needed to do. I paid attention, and I also asked small questions to make sure I understood everything correctly. After that, I repeated the instructions in my own words. I said, So first I clean this area, then I use this product, and after that I go to the other room, right? And she said, Yes, perfect. That moment changed everything for me. I felt more confident and more relaxed. From that day, I stopped pretending to understand. I started asking questions, even if I felt nervous. And you know what? My English improved faster, and my work also improved. So if you are listening to this, don't be afraid to ask. That small step can make a big difference in your job.
Okay, I love that story, Sophia. And honestly, I had a similar experience, but in my case, it was with a phone call. One day at work, my manager asked me to answer the phone because she was busy. I felt nervous immediately because talking on the phone in English is much harder than speaking face to face. So the phone rang and I answered, Hello, this is Emma speaking. The person on the other side started talking very fast. I couldn't see their face. I couldn't read their lips. And I didn't understand most of what they were saying. My mind went blank for a few seconds. I started to panic a little, but then I remembered something important. I don't need to understand everything. I just need to understand the main idea. So I took a deep breath and said, Sorry, can you speak a little slower, please? The person repeated, and this time I understood a bit more. Then I used another simple phrase. I said, Can you repeat that one more time? And slowly, piece by piece, I started to understand the message. It was a customer asking for information, nothing too complicated, but my fear made it feel very difficult at the beginning. After the call, I felt proud of myself. Not because I was perfect, but because I didn't give up. I used simple English, I asked for help, and I stayed calm. Later, I even wrote down some new words I heard during the call so I could remember them. That experience taught me that confidence grows little by little. You don't need to be perfect to communicate. You just need to try, stay calm, and use the tools you have. And every time you try, you become stronger and better at English.
That story is so real, Emma. And I think many people listening can relate to that feeling, especially with phone calls. Now let's talk about something else that happens a lot at work. Small conversations. Sometimes a coworker comes to you and says something simple like, How's your day? or "Are you busy?" and you don't know how to respond. These small conversations are very important because they help you connect with people. You don't need long answers. You can say simple things like, "It's going well," or "I'm a little busy right now." The goal is not to be perfect, but to participate. These moments help you feel more comfortable speaking English every day.
Yes, and these are called small talk. They may seem simple, but they are very powerful. For example, when you say good morning or how are you are building a connection with your coworkers. This makes your work environment more friendly and less stressful. And little by little, you feel more confident speaking English.
Okay, I want to share another real situation, but this time it was a little uncomfortable. One day, a coworker came to me and started making small talk. She asked me, "What did you do this weekend?" I understood the question, but I didn't know how to answer correctly. My mind went blank again. I wanted to say something simple like, "I stayed home and relaxed," but I didn't remember the words, so I just said, "Nothing. I know go outside." It didn't sound right, and I felt a little embarrassed. She looked at me, but she was still kind and smiling. Then she helped me without making me feel bad. She said, "Oh, you stayed home?" And I said, "Yes, I stayed home." That moment was very important because I learned a correct way to say it. Sometimes people will help you naturally if you pay attention. After that, I started preparing small answers in my mind for common questions. Things like, "I worked," "I watched a movie," or "I spent time with my family." These are simple sentences, but they help you feel ready for real conversations at work. So my advice is this: prepare simple answers for common questions. Practice them before you go to work. That way, when someone asks you something, you don't feel lost. You feel ready. And that confidence changes everything.
That's such a good tip, Sophia. And I want to share a moment where I made a mistake, but it helped me grow. One day at work, my manager asked me, "Can you handle this?" I understood the word handle, but I wasn't completely sure what she meant in that situation. I thought she meant touch or move, so I said yes very quickly. But actually, she was asking if I could take responsibility for a task. So I said yes without really understanding. Later, I realized I didn't know how to do it, and I felt very stressed. Instead of hiding, I decided to be honest. I went back and said, "Sorry, I think I misunderstood. Can you explain again?" And she did. She explained everything step by step, and I learned something new that day. Not just a word, but a real situation. That's when I understood something important. Words can have different meanings depending on the situation. So it's okay if you don't understand everything the first time. The important thing is to ask and learn, not to pretend. From that moment, I started asking more questions when I wasn't sure. And little by little, I started understanding more expressions that people use at work. That's how real learning happens. In real situations, not just in books.
That is so true, Emma. And I think another important situation at work is when you don't understand your coworkers in a conversation. Sometimes they speak fast, they use slang, or they joke with each other, and you feel lost. That can feel very uncomfortable, especially if everyone is laughing and you don't know why. In those moments, don't feel bad. It's completely normal. You can just smile, listen, and try to understand little by little. Over time, you will start recognizing expressions and jokes. English at work is not only about tasks, it's also about culture and connection with people.
Yes, and something that helped me a lot was listening more. At the beginning, I didn't talk much, but I paid attention to how people spoke. I noticed the words they used, the tone, and the way they responded in different situations. Listening is a very powerful tool when you are learning a language. You don't always need to speak to improve. Sometimes, just listening carefully can teach you a lot. Then, little by little, you start using those same phrases in your own conversations. It's like building your English step by step every single day at work.
Another important thing is not to compare yourself too much with others. Maybe your coworker speaks perfect English, or maybe they are more confident. That's okay. Everyone has a different journey. Focus on your progress even if it's small. Every new word, every sentence, every conversation matters. If yesterday you didn't speak, and today you said one sentence, that is progress. Be proud of that. Learning English at work is not easy, but it is possible if you stay consistent and patient with yourself.
Yes, and consistency is the key. You don't need to study for hours every day. Small practice is enough. For example, you can learn 2 or 3 new phrases every day and try to use them at work. That's how you make real progress over time. Also, don't be afraid to repeat phrases you hear from others. That's how children learn, and it works for adults too. Repetition helps your brain remember and use English more naturally.
And let's talk about confidence again because it's very important. Confidence doesn't come first, it comes after you try. So don't wait to feel ready. Start speaking now, even if it's not perfect. That's the only way to grow. Every time you speak, you are training your brain and your mouth. It may feel uncomfortable at first, but that feeling is part of the process. With time, it becomes easier and more natural.
Exactly. And remember, your goal is communication, not perfection. If people understand you, you are already doing something amazing. Don't stop yourself just because you are afraid of making mistakes. Mistakes are not your enemy. They are your teachers. Every mistake shows you what you need to learn next. So instead of feeling bad, see mistakes as opportunities to improve.
So if you are listening to this right now and you feel nervous about your English at work, we want to tell you something. You are not alone. Many people feel the same way, and many people improve step by step, just like you will. Keep going, keep practicing, and don't give up. Your effort will pay off. One day, you will look back and realize how much you have improved.
Thank you so much for listening to It English. We hope this episode helped you feel more confident and motivated to use English at work. Remember, small steps every day create big results. We'll see you in the next episode. Keep learning, keep practicing, and most importantly, believe in yourself. Bye.